Doing a quick update on the solar system for Aquaponics. For Aquaponics, we have a bank of batteries down here. Underneath this box we have two, doesn't want to come off, but two 80 amp hour deep cycles. Got a 90 amp hour by itself here. These ones are in parallel, so it creates 160 amp hours, which is, you know, not too bad. It's only $200 worth of batteries, and it's running a couple of large aerators to do two different systems. So we've got a 1,000 litre, it's all 1,600 litres all up, 3 or 4 grow beds running off this one for the trout, and we've got a 3,500 litre tank, or 3,500 litres of water in a 4,500 litre tank, running a couple of large grow beds, anchored raft, and through there you can see and another system, you know, some pretty large grow beds. So that's about 2,000 litres of grow beds for the 3,500. So excuse the mess everywhere. It's been one of those weeks of playing and pulling everything apart. So the solar, I'll just pull this open. Now I've been trying to load this up, like overload it basically. This is the old solar controller that goes on the 90 amp hour battery. Now this is about 5 or 6 years old and it's actually near dead. It's been discharged a few times too low. Before this system it came out of like a caravan camper kind of car trailer, and the panel that's on the roof, you can't see them from here, is pretty old and crappy. It's about 5 or 6 years old. Technology's come a fair whack since 5 or 6 years with solar. Got a couple of inverters. There's a backup inverter here, so that's 300 watt inverter, which I don't use. It's just there for emergency in case other ones fail. I have a tiny little baby one down here, about 100 watt. The smaller the better, so I'm not wasting energy. It doesn't even get hot, which means I'm not wasting too much power coming out of the crappy kind of the old system. If I plug the 300 watt in, it's kind of overkill for what it's running. You can feel the heat, which means you're wasting energy, so it's just draining batteries just to have the inverter on. So the little tiny inverter here, 100 watt, it was like, you know, $11 from China, that kind of thing. It does the job, has a little USB port on it, which is actually kind of handy out here for different things. All it runs is a wave maker. So here there's a 35 watt wave maker, and it basically creates a very strong current when no pumps or anything else are on inside the trout tank. The trout basically just swim against that, so it's like a stream, like a constant current. And the wave maker chewing 35 watts keeps the old system pretty busy. It's really hard to show you the screen, but the battery's never at full capacity, being old and, you know, overcycled, over kind of drained a few times, which kills the batteries. So basically that is all that's on that side of the system. So the old crappy one can only really run, you know, the wave maker, and it does that okay. You know, I don't have to worry about it. It's got enough power to do that. Yet on the other side I have 3 pumps running out of this here, a couple of aerators, and a few other odds and sods that are kind of not even a part of this, but just for power. The pumps that are running out of this system, one is 9,000 litres an hour, and one's 2,500 litres an hour, and another one at 2,500 litres an hour. So I'll just show you some of the pumps in this. It's hard to get through, but in this setup here there's 2 pumps. One runs a big triangle system. It's kind of a bit funky, but we're just filling up again, replanning it out. As you can see, it's like a big triangle, and the water gets pumped up from this sump, goes up into the top of it, runs its way down at some fair speed, and then back into that sump. So there's a pump for that. There's a 3,500 litre pump coming into the trout tank out of that system there as well. That system's got the big triangle and 3 grow beds that run down there, so you know, it's a fair whack. So that's a pretty loaded up kind of system. The largest pump, 9,000 litres an hour, is in that system over there, which runs those big grow beds plus a few seedling beds and that kind of thing out of this tank, as we said before. So this solar, if I can get down there and show you the screens through all these massive cables, you can see it's charging, little lights up the side going up and down. You can see the volts coming in, 132, 127, 129. Output is 220 at 50 Hertz, that thing in the middle. And you can see here the battery capacity. So this is about 9 in the morning, so it's been dark all night. We've only just starting to get sunlight on the panels now, and they're charging up nicely, and even the overnight pumps have hardly drained the 160 amp hour batteries. And that's running a lot. That's running, you know, a lot of gear. All up about 120 watts in pumps and about another 40 in aerators, and it has no problem doing it. So more than happy with his solar. I'm running these, they're all up really 3 different systems, all on solar, without any struggles. I've got an AC backup. This inverter is also a charger, so if I get too many cloudy days, that kind of thing, it will kick over to AC. So I've got mains power, so it's kind of the opposite of a UPS. But really happy with the solar. It's been now going for, you know, a month or two. Solid on solar, no mains connection coming into the system, and even with my extra, you know, toys like wave makers and, you know, and different things, it's you know, it's powering along. I also use on it, I plug in this Vortex compost tea maker, which has a 35 watt aerator, and it also has a 25 watt aquarium heater inside it. So that thing is also running off. I don't use it much, like once a week it charges up for a day or two, but it's running in the same system. And as you can see right here, there's a load meter. It's got little lines, and there's no lights. I've never seen the lights come on the load. So this you know, little charger unit is just perfect. I could load up probably 2 more systems onto this, and you know, then I'd probably see it starting to struggle. The load would be a bit high, but yeah, I'm just going to keep loading it up and see how much crap I can plug into it and push it. I want, you know, more load and you know, more gear running off it, because it's free. No, well, it's not free. It actually costs a lot of money to set up solar with all the panels and everything. But this charger controller here is running on 120 watt panel. It's actually 260s, and it has a MPPT controller that then runs into this. So I don't even know if that's really necessary, but the panels already have the controller on it, so it's kind of a double controller. So I don't know whether that helps or not. It's probably actually inefficient, but you know, that's how it goes. It's doing the job. It's running all the different gear, as you can see, just boxes and boxes of it, and you know, it does it well. There we go. Just start it up, so you can start it up, and the volts have actually coming in at 156, 130, that kind of thing. So you know, you can see by the lights here that even though it's dragging, you can hear all the different pumps starting up. Even though it's dragging, you know, what seems like a lot of effort, like 3 different pumps running plus 2 aerators and wave makers, it's still charging as it's coming in. So it's not even relying much on the batteries. It's charging the batteries and putting out the power. I've also got kind of like a standalone system. This one needs the grass cut. This one runs on 100% solar with no controllers. Really simple little 20 watt panel. And under all that grass over there is a little controller box that has a timer. This is just about a $140 job from eBay, not a serious setup at all. And you know, it does the job. It comes on basically every 15 to half an hour, fills the beds. They're only fresh new little beds, as you can see, but you know, it's doing the job. And this tank only has goldfish. They're actually the kids, so they've all been named, as we're not going to eat these fish, so they're safe enough to name. And it's not quite up to speed yet because it's so early. You can see the sun's a bit low here. It's all still shadowed out. It's very early in the morning. And being that I didn't have an aerator for this system, goldfish don't really need it. The trickle that comes through each bed, you know, every half an hour does aerate the water. But they're not running at speed yet. They're pumping like pulsing. But they're just tiny little, I think they were like $10 each. They're miniature little solar fountains. I just cut bigger holes in the top and put 2 of them in a bit of styrofoam, and it creates an aerator, because You know, the oxygen levels in the tanks go down with heat and obviously daytime, and they stabilise off, and you know, not as much oxygen's depleted out of the water at night time. So this is a pretty simple little system, you know, no fuss, no controllers, no, you know, funky gear like the other one, but it does the job just as good. You know, the beds seem to be going pretty well, apart from caterpillars getting in amongst some of it. You know, and that little baby there, I'm actually standing in the path of it, just gives it, you know, that trickle, and later on in the day it'll pick up to a proper, you know, it'll stop pulsing and they'll spray continuously, and as you can see, it puts, you know, air in the water, and like I said, there are only little goldfish in this thing, different goldfish and koi and whatever, for the kids to play with. So yeah, so the solar setup, more than impressed. The standalone little tiny system, you know, it's just hobby crap. It was more just an experiment to see, as my laziness meant pulling a extension cord through the window of the bungalow and having to walk into that place that I'd never bother going into. I just couldn't be bothered, so it was easy to hook up the solar. More than happy with that. And you know, all that side, tanks, all the different grow beds, all the different greenhouses, all running from solar, from quite two pissy panels. So I bought the panels thinking I was going to have to put them all in series, like buy 4 lots of panels or something, and but you don't. That 120 watt panel is running all the gear for all these beds, for all the different systems here, and down further there, you can only see the edge of it there, dodgily bolted onto the roof, is the really old panel. I don't even know what it's rated at. It's probably about 80 watts, even though it's twice the size of the new one. It's pretty crappy, and all that's doing is the wave maker. So more than likely I'm going to pull that one off the roof and buy another 120 watt or maybe even a 200 just to have the excess power, and you know, keep this baby off the grid. It's the way to do it. There you go. You know, pumps going everywhere, stuff happening, all free, all solar. It's, you know, total cost of it all, I don't know, for the solar gear maybe $500 or something if your shop's smart enough. You know, it's $500 is a fair outlay, but knowing that this stuff will run for years and years on free energy, you know, it's the eco side of it all. It's worth doing. So yeah, quick solar update.